It's usually foggy in the morning, and it's very still. And then when the sun starts to come out through the trees, then the golden goblet starts to light up. Here it comes, yeah. And you see, like that form in the middle, it disappeared, and now it's starting to reemerge. Yeah, these things, like in artificial light, very, very different. And hard to photograph as well. I kind of like that they need to be seen in person. You know, it's literally like saying, here's a photograph of this person, and here's how this person is, and they're this and they're that and the other thing, and they're funny and they're interesting. But then until you meet that person, you're never really going to know and feel, for yourself how they are. We've painted over all our best paintings, but we still have to be able to see them for ourselves. My first memories making art were I was in nursery school, I think. I had a great nursery school, a woman who opened up her house, basically. And she used to just put an easel with newsprint and little pots of paint with the brushes already in them. And I just remember just, tucking in and going through like page after page. And she was wonderful. She would peel it off and save it and put it up. And I just remember just completely making a mess and just, but there was something going on. I could never process whatever it is I was trying. I wasn't interested in even trying to make anything. I was just, responding almost like I do now with the paint and the color. I had no idea what I wanted to do. And I always thought that I didn't have the attention span to sit and paint for hours at a time. So I was doing photography, and my photographs ended up being collage and paintings of a kind anyway. And just I remember one day washing my brushes, and the instructor at the time said, I think you're going to be a painter. And I remember that just registered. I was just involved in it and enjoying it. And I said, well, that's okay. I went to the Vermont Studio Center for a summer, which was great for me because they just give you a studio and you paint and they feed you. And that was really my foot in the door where that was it. I was sold. Then I moved to Manhattan and went to the New York Studio School. I remember sitting with a friend of mine, and we just needed to get out of New York. We did not want to spend a summer there. We got here in April, I think, when we first walked onto the island. There's nothing going on, and there's no leaves, and it looks kind of glum when you get here at that time of the year. But of course, when we finally came in June, it looks more like this. And, I was just immediately just hooked and drawn to this place. And for me, it was the light, and still remains to be the light. the light in Maine is just different. And I even think when you cross the border from New Hampshire, I believe this, and maybe I'm full of it, but when you cross the border, I feel that I can tell. There's a clarity here with the light. And it's such that it's very even hard to talk about, but it's so clear and it's so sharp that it gives a definition to things that in like the most sublime of ways. I think it brings all the components in nature to the forefront. As you know, you come on the boat, and even in the fog, one would think, oh, this is gray. Fog here is like a kaleidoscope for me. It's spellbinding and mysterious, and it's just, I can't get enough of it. It's funny, I used to paint very thickly, especially coming out of art school, and some of my paintings, I had to throw out so many of them because they were just too big and too heavy. Like there was nowhere I could put them. There's even a great story when I was in Williamsburg and we were moving out, and I had to just take all my paintings, canvases off the stretchers, roll them up in one big roll, and put them out in the street. So I'm driving down the Brooklyn-Queens Expressway, and there was a little homeless encampment by the bridge, and I'm looking over. I see this they had sort of tents that they made, and I see these really colorful like structure. I'm like, wow, like that looks really impressive. And I look closely, and they're all my paintings. And he made his house with all my canvases. And I didn't take a picture of it, which was a big mistake. But it was beautiful and also practical because oil paint is very durable. But anyway, so I painted very thickly up until maybe 4 or 5 years ago. I couldn't, until there was a lot of material on the surface, I couldn't see it or feel it. You know, for me, it's so much about feeling when something is there and responding to that in a physical way. That kind of dried up for me. I sort of hit a wall. And as I work and as I look back like through the years, it's so much about getting rid of things in my work to try to get to, you know, that thing that you feel, and cast away all the things that go with making a good painting. You know, I'm very clear that I'm not around to make paintings. You know, like these for me are ways to move forward, to walk. And I kind of see each one as, you know, like a stone. Like if I needed to get to this island and these stones are in the water and I could kind of make my way through. And it doesn't matter, like there are some that I know are more accessible, more successful in a formal way that I could recognize and that I appreciate as a painter. But for me, it's like, oddly, it's usually the bad ones, even the ones that get painted over. That's where I get more from the big failures. You know, even this is a good example. This painting was at a point where, and this is sort of the curse of painting, I think, when you paint it and you say, oh, like something's happening there, and that's an amazing painting. And I knew when that happens in my mind, I know it's finished. It's just the kiss of death. And there is this process where I know this is a successful painting. It's very clear. You could see what's happening. And it made a real impression, but it wasn't enough. This is where I get to about casting things away. And I painted the whole thing this yellow. This one was sort of where everything came from. And I've gotten to so many points where I've said, these are just too simple. Like there's nothing here. But that's when I'm really getting closer. It's not in the business of being a painting. It's in the business of, trying to pull me forward and trying to also establish like a very quiet continuity. I've been doing this for I don't know how long, well over 30 years, and I still feel like I really don't know what the heck I'm doing. It's such a mystery, like how, because when you're younger, you think like, I'm going to learn how to do this. I'm going to go to school and they're going to teach me how to do this. And all these great painters are going to show me how to make paintings. And then you go into your studio and you're just lost. It doesn't work. You make a good painting and you think like, okay, so this is what I did that day. It's like almost like superstitious, this is the, socks that I wore that day, or I came through this door. But it's useless. That moment is gone, and you'll never duplicate that moment. So it's hard. It's so much about letting go. It's so hard to let go, because sometimes you just want to, take the ball and just run with it and just make hay. But that's never worked for me. There's a lot of waiting and a lot of looking and drawing. And then eventually, there's an invitation to come paint. But it's so much just about feeling. It's about, firstly getting the light right and letting them breathe, letting there be a place for one to enter in and exit. And it's just my job to let it survive and to not kill it. For me, drawing's the way in and the way through. Like you've gone to the moon through drawing. And I feel that the painting is just sort of like the staff in your territory. Picasso for me is like, he's all will, and he goes in with his brave self and attacks it and attacks the bull by the horns and then ties it up, and it's impressive, and he's in his way is brilliant. But I'm not moved by him in the way that I'm moved by Matisse, because I feel Matisse lets everything pass, and he lets the light enter into the work, and it's very, there's something like I said, I don't want to be a burden. I don't want people to come, see my baggage, I want to keep them as light as possible, and I would like to think that, my work is something where somebody can, meditate on and have some, a quiet moment and some peace, similar to if they were looking at the sky or, the grass or a tree or the sea. It takes time for your eyes to adjust to these. And sometimes I look at a canvas and I have my memory of that I know something is going on there, and I want to rush in the morning. I usually have my tea in here and see what happened. And so many times my first impression is, oh, there's nothing there. I just painted it out. But then you sit down for a little while and the eyes adjust to it. I feel I see them better peripherally. The corner of my eye. When I have these things up, I work on many at once, and it's always out of the corner of my eye. Maybe I'm doing something here, and out of the corner of my eye, now I know what needs to be done here. They sort of have to come to you. And that's the thing that's interesting about paintings, is like every painting is a different way to be looked at, even if you have to put it away, which usually almost all the time I have to put something against the wall and not look at it for a month or whatever it is, and then take it back on again. And then you could usually see with fresh eyes, what's there. But they all, like, for me, it comes back to nature. Even the abstract paintings, they're grounded in nature. When you look at them, you know what you're seeing. You've seen it before somehow. You could feel that you've been there. And that's a beautiful thing and a sacred thing. You know, people can, if they just have a moment, and with painting, that's all you need is a second, where you acknowledge something and where you receive it. It's like a ripple, you know, when you throw a little stone in the water. All you don't need, you know, a huge discovery. You just need to have a small moment, and I think that can be, you know, an immense impression on somebody. That's what we need. We need more paintings in the world, and less lawyers.
This video is sponsored by Center for Maine Contemporary Art's Virtual Look Inside Educators Portal, made possible by the Sherman Family Foundation and KHR McNeely Family Foundation, the Dorothea and Leo Rapkin Foundation, and our generous viewers.